My name is Alden Griffiths, and I'm going to be making a sage rub pork chop with a Kickin cream sauce for you today. We're going to start out with 5 ounces of Philadelphia cream cheese for our cream sauce and 1 tablespoon of chicken grill seasoning. I love chicken grill seasoning. I use it on all kinds of things, and this is the perfect application outside of the box. So we're going to put this on here. Mix it up. Okay, so I mixed my cream cheese with the grilled seasoning, and this by itself is extremely good on toast or vegetables, but we're going to use it in a cream sauce today. I'm going to put this over here. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to make our rub, and I'm taking the liberty of already mixing it together. It's 1½ tablespoons of fresh minced sage, 3/4 teaspoon of table salt, and then 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, and that's right here. We're going to keep it right here for our pork. The thing we're going to do is we're going to get our vegetables ready to go. Today we're going to make a tomato concassé, which is a very fancy way of saying peeled and de-seeded tomatoes. Make sure your tomatoes are nice and clean and all the stickers and stems are off. We're going to have a pot of boiling hot water. We're going to turn that up so it's nice and hot and boiling when we need it. And then we're going to need a bowl of ice water, just water and ice. Don't salt your water for this because we don't want to add any salt to our tomatoes. Then we're going to take our tomatoes and chop a little cross in the bottom of your tomato. We're going to do that to all 4 here. And that's going to make it peel really easily when we're done plunging our tomatoes in hot water. Okay. So there's that. And our water is ready to go. Just going to take the top off. Make sure it's at a rolling boil. This literally takes 30 seconds. So we're going to take our tomatoes, and we're going to drop them in. Careful not to let yourself get burned. Okay, and as soon as they start to pop, and you'll see the skin start to pull away, we pull these tomatoes out of the hot water and plunge them in our ice bath. This stops the cooking, because we don't want to actually cook our tomatoes, we just want those skins to come off really easily. So these are done, and we can leave them here until we're ready for them, because next we're going to chop our, and our onions are diced. We want to do a really small dice because this is going to braise for 10 minutes. We want to make sure that our onions and tomatoes cook through, and the tomatoes will cook through just fine, but the onions we want to make sure. So now we have our tomatoes, and see how they've pulled away? Then they just peel right off. Really easy. I'm going to show you how to do one, and then I won't bore you with all 4. So we have our skins peel right away, which is really nice, easy way to get those peels off the tomato. And then the way I de-seed my tomatoes, a lot of times people cut all the guts out of their tomatoes when they're de-seeding and making a concassé. A lot of times I really feel that's kind of a waste. So what I like to do is I like to cut the little core out, watching your fingers of course, and then I just use my fingers and I scoop all those guts out. Okay, so I have done a medium dice on one medium onion, and then I mixed it with our tomato concassé, which I did also a small or to medium dice on our tomato concassé, and that's mixed together, and this is for our sauce. We're going to put it right by the stove so we have it on hand. And next, for the main event, our pork chops. We're going to rub these with our sage rub that we made earlier with the salt and pepper and fresh sage. And we're going to just sprinkle it on top here. There we go. Rub them really well. We've done that. And now we're going to wipe our hands off and turn on our stove. We turn that on medium-high. And I have 2 tablespoons of oil in my pan. Okay, so our cast iron skillet is nice and hot. We've got 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil in here. And we're going to put our pork chops down. And that is exactly the sound we want to hear. We want to hear it start to sizzle right away. That means we're going to get a really good sear on this. I can smell that sage right away. It smells so good. Okay, so my pork chops, 1-inch thick loin pork chops, 4 of them, have been sitting in the pan. I did 1 sear on one side for 4 minutes, and then the second sear for 3 minutes. I always do 1 minute less on my sear on the second side because the pan is always hotter when you flip it, and you spend more time on the heat. And so I've got this beautiful, beautiful sear on my pork chops. We don't need that extra fat in the pan, so we're going to take our pork chops out, and we are going to throw them on a plate really quickly. There we go. And then we're going to take this excess fat, just pour it off in a bowl off to the side. That's really good if you want to mix that with some vegetables and throw it in your oven to round out the meal. That's really good oil to use in there because then the flavors from your meat are on your vegetables. We're going to go ahead and put the meat back in the pan now. Okay. Beautiful. And we're going to turn our heat down to medium-low, depending on what type of heat source you have. If it's electricity, then you want it set on like that 3 kind of mark. And if it's gas, then you want a real low flame. Take our onions and our tomatoes. Put our onions and tomatoes down. And I use my hands. Keep them nice and clean using my hands for everything. I'm going to spread those out to make sure that some of those tomatoes and onions are on the heat. And I saute going. And then we're going to let this simmer covered for 10 minutes. So I'll meet you back in 10 minutes and I'll show you how to finish the dish. They are done now. If you want to temp them, you can. I always stress because I kind of like my pork chops medium anyway. So medium rare sometimes even if they're nice and fresh. We're going to take the pork chops out of the pan, turn our heat up to medium-high again. We're going to let that meat rest so that when we cut them, they won't get dry. Spread our onions and tomatoes out. And there's a nice liquid in the pan now, if you can see it. Now it's time to make our cream sauce. Our cream cheese has been hanging out at room temperature for the last little bit here. It's going to go in the pan. That goes down. We can use our whisk. Get all that off. 3 ounces of half and half goes in the pan as well, and that loosens up the cream cheese, but keeps the creaminess with the half and half. We're going to use our whisk, and we're going to whisk out the cream cheese, whisk it into our tomatoes and onions. We're going to let it simmer for about 3 minutes to let it thicken up and get all the flavors melted together, and that's our cream sauce. Very simple and absolutely delicious. Our big spoon here and just flatten this out. Beautiful. We're going to let that simmer for about 3 minutes. And I have one thing to show you. Grilled pineapple is the best, of course. But why would we want to fire up a grill for just pineapple? So what I did is I took pineapple and I put it on skewers. And I put it in the oven under the broiler. And as you can see, it's starting to crisp up. And here, just like on the grill, and then you get that real intense sweet of the pineapple without having to fire up the grill, which is really nice. We're going to stick those back in for a couple minutes. We're going to let this sauce simmer for about 2 minutes, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you how to plate it. Okay, so our pineapple has come out of the oven. It's got a beautiful char on it. We're going to put that down, and then our cream sauce has been simmering for a couple of minutes. It's the perfect consistency. Add just a little bit of salt at the end to make sure to bring all the flavors out. We've got our pork chop. It's all ready to go and resting. So how we're going to plate this today, we're going to take a nice scoop of our cream sauce, put it down on our plate as the base, because believe me, you're going to want to dip everything in the cream sauce once you taste it. Then we're going to take our pineapple. These skewers are still quite warm, so I'm not using hot pads. And we're going to take the pineapple and push it down onto the plate to create a nice bed for a pork chop. There we go. Okay. We take our pork chop and we're going to cut it in half. I like to cut my meat on a bias. It's real nice. Nice white color, but not overdone. Put that down on the plate, and then I'm going to take a little bit more cream sauce, drizzle it over the top, like so. The last thing we're going to do is take a little bit of our fresh sage that we chopped up and sprinkle it on top. And there we have it. Sage rub pork chops with a Kickin cream sauce and grilled pineapple, but we're cheating on the pineapple. Thank you.